Welcome to the Redevelopment Commission meeting for July 1st, 2024. We'll start the meeting with a roll call, please.
C. Scamballeri here.
Randy Cassidy here.
John West here.
Deborah Meyerson here. And staff present, please.
Anna Hansen, hand.
Christina Finley, hand. Jane Cooper-Smith, Economic and Sustainable Development.
Jessica McClellan, City Controller.
And do you know if legal's coming today or not necessarily?
They're supposed to, I was just sending the message right now.
Where are you at, Larry?
Well, if anything comes up, we can always put it to the bottom of the agenda for their questions. Okay, so next on our agenda, we have approval of the meeting minutes from June 17th, 2024. Any questions or comments from commissioners? If not, I'll take a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. And next we have examination of claims. We're looking at the claim register for July 5th, 2024, covering the time period starting June 22nd. Any questions or comments from commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I've got a question. In Fund 439, and this is just a general question, I'm not questioning the expense, I'm questioning just what the project is. 439, it was item 7255, it's about solar panels.
Thank you.
I'm just not aware of the project.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
We don't see all of the claims that come through for the consolidated TIF, so it didn't come through our department. Let me see.
Did that come through your department, Jane?
Which one is it?
Fund
It's,
439.
Page 3 of 5, item 7255.
Here. This is.
This is called Stump the Band.
It's just a little hard to now reorganize my.
It says B-Ton Gen REV 21, solar panels, general revenue bond 2021. Jessica, Jane?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'm happy to look into that while you're doing other business, but I need a minute.
We can move on, it's not gonna hold up the vote.
Okay, that's my question. Is it
No,
going
no,
for a
that just,
response on
I'm
that?
sure somebody signed off on it and it's gotta be fine, I just,
You're asking about an item in the claims register that didn't come through us.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Sorry.
you can go ahead and move on, we can get
Okay,
back to it.
so we'll let
Well, I'd
folks
like,
look into it. Okay, so for the examination of claims for July 5th, 2024, we've entertained some comments, but do we have a motion?
I'd like to hold off and find out what it is, we can move on and come back to them.
Okay,
Just so we have a good, clear understanding of what we're voting on.
okay, so we'll pause that and return to that later on the agenda. Okay, so next item is payroll register for June 28th, 2024. And any questions or comments from commissioners?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
First and second, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. We'll look to our report of officers and committees. Is there a director's report?
We do have a director's report. So I did want to bring it to your attention that our annual action plan is out for public notice right now. Also, our hand inspectors, our CDBG Physical Improvement Program Manager and myself just went to a training in Louisville for, it's called Inspire. It's being implemented nationwide by HUD, and it's going to be fully required as of October, but it's the National Standards of Physical Inspection of Real Estate. So we are moving forward to be certified and have gone through that education. We have also started inventorying city-owned property, including Redevelopment Commission, so we're working on that. We do have a number of physical improvement projects that are underway, with more beginning the following of the conclusion of the action plan. So currently underway, we have fire safety improvements at the Centerstone location, and then deteriorating surface replacement at Life Designs, and then 2 Habitat for Humanity homes as well.
On the Habitat Humanity, is that something that we're providing for dollars and then?
We're providing a portion of, through our home partnership, yes,
Okay, so it's.
for new
help-
construction, yeah.
Okay, helping to fund a new construction project.
That is
for a family.
correct. Mhm.
Thank you.
And a question, going back to the certification that you talked about, is that's required? So it doesn't necessarily get us any special benefits or make us eligible for additional funding or anything like that? It's just.
We will not be able to use our HUD funding unless we are.
That's an incentive.
Yes. Mhm. Yes.
Got it.
Not
Mhm.
optional.
Yeah.
On the Habitat houses, are we funding them completely or just a
No,
portion?
just a portion.
Okay, any idea what portion?
Generally, our expenses are between 40 and 60,000. These 2 particular homes are 60,000 each.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a legal report?
No report, but I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you.
Okay. List of properties?
Sure.
Okay, we're working on that.
I thought I already sent it to you, so I'll just send
Oh,
it to you.
no, I'll do
No, I
so.
may have not, and I just, in my brain, I marked it off as complete, and I'll do that.
Okay.
I'll send it to all the commissioners.
Appreciate that.
You have a treasurer's report?
The treasurer reports the property tax settlement into the consolidated TIF fund in June was $9,473,805. And settlement into the Kinzer Pike Prow TIF was $45,194. We had a good discussion about moving forward, trying to get the project status sheet updated, and talking about what funds what commitments that this body has made, and against the balance of what the total project costs could be. And the projects are multi-year and very, very big, so we're going to keep working towards that. And I do have an answer about the bond, or that payment is a bond payment, and it is for the solar panel leases, and it's broken up between 3 different departments. CBU pays 52.9%, Parks and Rec pays 31.9%, and TIF pays 15%. So that was principal and interest. There should be.
And it's just, they're various different buildings?
I'm not really sure what the solar
buildings
panels
that
are
we already
on.
Yeah,
own.
there are investments, the city's made investments in solar panels. Like CBU has a cache of them. Parks has solar panels installed in various places. And then I'm assuming the RDCs, I'm sorry that I don't know offhand what that is. Or whether they're installed on existing buildings or
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
it just predates me, but I can find out.
And I can find out where my office gets this breakdown from. They must have some kind of documentation that tells them, why. So we can look into that.
Could you also repeat the consolidated drop?
The consolidated TIF property tax,
Yes.
$9,473,805.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
And the Prow?
Prow was $45,194.
Quick question on consolidated, Jessica. Given all the other areas that were consolidated, there's no way to break out the particular areas from where the consolidated came from, is there?
There is, I can show you where the consolidated came from. Yeah,
Just looking at the particular areas, so we
Uh-huh.
know downtown versus.
I can definitely,
west
yes.
side
It's
versus-
still broken out that way when we get it from the county.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
interesting
it
to see
is.
that,
It
too.
actually is.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you could share that with us, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, definitely.
Good. And then, if we could, Larry or Jessica, is there a way to find out on our solar panels, which ones are on RDC-owned buildings? And that way, we're at least
So
cognizant of the future replacement costs as we look at long-term?
I think that's what Jamie's gonna do.
Yeah,
Okay, that's where.
we have a really great dashboard that shows where all of our solar panels are installed, what energy they're generating, when they go offline, there's a notification and our servicers are able to see and go fix whatever's happening. What I am saying I didn't understand is we did a major bulk purchase in 2017, and I think that's what this is related to.
Okay.
We may have purchased again since then.
Mhm.
And so what I don't know is how many solar panels that the city holds are actually owned by RDC. Or if that bond only refers to the panels that have been installed on RDC properties. So it's more,
Yeah, I guess, just to clarify, from a question standpoint, it's not the number of panels. All I was looking at is, and to ask the question is, the RDC-owned facilities, like, you know,
So,
yeah.
which ones are which, so we can prepare long-term for replacement.
Replacement costs, yeah.
That's all. Sorry.
so under the original contract, yeah, within a year of 2017, Jay's absolutely right. There was supposed to be citywide installation of solar panels. One of the major sites that was identified for solar panels at the time became unviable in that year. And so what happened is that contract actually got extended from 2017 until I actually want to say 2023, almost 2022, I think was when the final installation went in. And so that meant that we had to find substitute locations to make up the amount of the guaranteed savings program, because this was under, the law was changing. Bloomington moved fairly quickly to take advantage of guaranteed energy savings with the installation of the solar panels. That included a few RDC projects to install solar panels on. That includes the Dimension Mill, the renovation of the Dimension Mill. It includes the Trades District garage and the 4th Street garage all have solar arrays that are tied into this system and that were used to offset against the original contract for the solar arrays. And so those 3 are going to be the primary solar arrays. We also have, just as a result of that agreement, just FYI, a surplusage of panels that ESD has been looking for partners to use, and that those have been stored in an RDC facility at College Square as well. But
Is that something we can partner with in a affordable housing situation, or does it need to be on a commercial?
It is,
Facility.
and in fact, we signed an agreement with BHA for some additional installation at Crestmont and more Crestmont. We had a baseline and now we've just doubled it for this year.
and I thought we may have also come to some agreement with Walnut Woods. Does that sound right? And Reverend Butler Park, maybe apartments as well, just for smaller installations. So those are not very
Yeah,
big.
that sounds right. We also, sorry, it's all coming back to me. We also have an agreement with Habitat. So they've received some
Okay,
panels.
so they can put them on their homes also to help
Yeah.
offset the residents'
Yeah.
costs. Okay.
Yeah. It's been an adventure. It's a really good program. ESD's done a wonderful job managing it, particularly because it dragged on so long. Just full disclosure, I mean, it's a mismatch of kind of projects at this point, and getting them on a dashboard like Jane mentioned from the sustainability coordinator is no small feat. They did a wonderful job pulling this together, making sure the technology works together, which included having to upgrade the technology, because from 2017 to 2022 and 23, you might imagine cell technology, which is how a lot of these reports, some of them are hardwired in, some of them have cell technology, have changed. And so just to sing the praises of ESD for a second, is that they worked tremendously hard in making this kind of the city solar experiment a unified experiment where we can start to track it and have a dashboard that tracks it. Because originally, I think what was going to be accepted was kind of these would have been broken apart on islands and we may not have been able to easily track it. So that was a significant achievement on their
Yeah, so
part.
Sean Mia, our Assistant Director for Sustainability, has been managing that along with our Sustainability Program Coordinator, Michaela Lynch. So I sent you the link to the dashboard, and if you scroll over to the project information page, you can see more detailed information about city sites. So, yeah, enjoy
Perfect. Oh,
looking around
fun
that.
stuff. And,
It is cool.
yeah, it is, when you look at what we're doing from a savings standpoint, and then the extra panels that we have, we're actively looking for partnerships in order to try to help reduce the
Oh, yeah.
energy usage accordingly. Because as we're all aware, Duke's got an IURC application in to raise rates, so it's important to keep our energy costs low. Appreciate that, thank you.
Is the maintenance of the panels typically associated with the owner of the building then, in the sense of, let's say, the RDC on buildings that have the panels on them, or how the dashboard looks at things, it looks at things broken down by ownership?
It depends. So for the mill, for example, those panels are city-owned panels that are contributing to the city's pool of energy. I'm sorry, I don't have the technical language. And so we handle the operating and maintenance for that, for those panels.
The way,
Yeah.
the way we've done the billing in the past has been pro rata versus where the panels are. Because in terms of maintenance of the panels, largely what we have in terms of maintenance is mowing and keeping them clear. So particularly the ones on the ground, those are probably the biggest things. We've also entered into a contract with, Jen, I believe it's Verigy, is that correct?
Yeah.
With Verigy, which is an energy company that has helped us do this maintenance and ongoing checking of them. So if something goes down, they can be our first line of defense. Up until early 2023, it had been the original contractor that was going out for us. But yeah, there is some maintenance, and the way we've at least traditionally billed those was pro rata among the departments based on the share of the solar panels.
Thank you.
So this was a payment, correct?
This was a bond payment.
Bond
That's
payment?
what it's on.
Yes, bond payment.
On that bond
That's
thing, is that GO bond is not just an RDC bond?
It is an RDC, it is not a GO bond.
Oh, it's not, okay.
It's a solar panel revenue bond, isn't it?
Yeah, that sounds right. I think as I sit here, I don't know that it's an obligation. I'm very sorry. I don't know that it's an obligation of the RDC. I apologize. I'm happy to make sure I get those answers for you though and tell you about the structure of the bond.
Yeah, okay.
I'm very sorry.
It's, yeah, general revenue too, so that's why.
Yeah, that's what I suspect because ideally there was some upfront payments, obviously, of the installation. The idea, though, is that the city will reap the savings over the life of the contract, enough savings to essentially pay for the servicing of the bonds. Yeah.
Okay. That works, thank you. Go back to the approval.
Okay, well, we might then transition to business development updates, even though we've been hearing some. Are there additional business
No
development updates?
additional updates for
Okay,
today.
thank you. Deb is here, okay, good. So we'll go to a Hopewell update and then Trades District? That's not on the agenda, but I see John here, so I'm assuming. Okay, so let's do Hopewell update, please.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. So big focus continues to be on the development public offering. So we report on that a couple times, and we are continuing to work on those details. Also construction, you're going to hear a few good things about construction today in terms of some change orders. So obviously construction as it relates to the demolition of Hopewell South, as well as what's happening with exciting things at Hopewell East. Hopefully you've had a chance to drive by there. It's really, it's going to be done this fall, and you can see a lot of things coming out of the ground. So that's where the effort continues to be behind the scenes. Happy to answer any questions.
It's Jane again. Deb, we visited on Friday, and I think that was really
Yeah.
exciting for everyone in the group. So, yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Looking good on the ground, on the infrastructure. So are we still on, are we still on time to get this RFP out this month, now that we're in July?
I'll answer that. Maybe it's Jane for the record. I'm talking a lot today. We're continuing to work on it. We've really dug into the document, had a meeting with the mayor on Friday, and so we feel like we're really close to being able to hand it off to you three, but we're trying to measure twice, cut once, especially with this first document, which will serve as the foundation for the following public offerings. So I know we had hoped to be able to have it ready for July, but it will go out in July, but it will be
Then we'll have
as
time.
quickly as what we had expected.
Okay, then you'll have time frames to do.
Yeah.
So, and this first portion is for which piece, just so I'm clear?
Hopewell East.
Hopewell East.
Sorry, Hopewell South.
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 Okay,
South.
it's the re-RFP.
8, 9, 10.
Okay. And then after that goes out, 60, 90 days or so for East? Just curious.
Sorry, how long will it be out?
For East.
Um,
That'll follow up after
It
we
will
get back.
follow, We don't plan to have it be concurrent at this time.
Okay. Be
That could-
consecutive.
Strategy could change, but, yeah.
That's wise. Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to new business, I want to just go back up to the examination of claim registers because we paused on that. We heard some more about the solar panels, so just want to go ahead and ask for any motion to adopt those.
I'll move approval of claim register for July 5th, 2024.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. And we will move on to new business, resolution 24-48. Who would like to speak to this?
I can speak to it at first, and John, you want to? So this is just the contract that you all had, essentially, we had approved the lease for the Trades District Garage with the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, ESNet, working through the University of California system. We put that out to bid, put out an RFP for the improvements within the garage to finish out the office space, so to bring it up to white box and then finish out the full improvements. Let me pull this up here, excuse me just a second. So the best respondent, we had 3 qualified bids that looked very good, but the Compass Commercial Construction Group was the lowest and most responsible bidder. They agreed to do it for an amount not to exceed a total of $770,000. And the contract's attached, so this is a little bit less than what was approved fully in the last resolution when you all approved the lease. I believe that you approved something like $773,700, something like that. So this came in a little bit under that. We don't necessarily anticipate we're not sure yet. It'll kind of depend as the design goes on and the process goes on, whether that full amount will be needed. But at this stage, this is kind of what they've absolutely guaranteed they won't go over. And then we anticipate under their timeline that they have this starting fairly quickly. So if this is approved tonight and we sign the contract, we anticipate signing a contract this week. They would start in earnest next week. They have a projected timeline of finishing the build out by the end of December of this year, which is a very ambitious goal. We would anticipate, it's possible with some delays, though, that this might go into early next year, which would not be out of the bounds of consideration. But certainly we would do everything we can to hold them to a tight timeline. We want to get the tenants in there. They're very eager to get in there. We have, just so you know, there are 2 accounts here listed under this resolution, the 444 general account and the consolidated TIF. So just really quickly, because this involves a further upgrade of the commercial space in the Trades District Garage from what was essentially gray box, it is eligible for the TIF because it will be an improvement to serve, because a lot of these improvements will be retained by the RDC and be able to take advantage of those going in the future. So that's what makes that consolidated TIF. We did want the flexibility, of course, to have both accounts, so whatever the controller thinks is best there, so they can pull out of either of the account, whether it's consolidated TIF is the best or the 444 account. But I just wanted to make that clear why there's a distinction there, the both accounts. Just wanted to give some flexibility, but to clarify that it is TIF eligible.
I don't really have anything to add. We were really pleased to have 3 well-qualified proposals. Eddie Weiss is here from Compass. They're an Indianapolis-based company. They're partnering with Delve Design on the A&E on the design piece. They're real anxious to get started. So they've already met with Jean-Paul Heron, who is ESNet's designated lead for the project. And assuming we get approval and the contract signed this week, they'll be meeting with Jean-Paul and I next week to start building out the plans and specifications. I think the big driver here was in part cost, but I think the thing that really tipped the scales for us on their proposal was the timeline. There was a significant difference between them and one of the other bidders. One was like January, the other one was May. And so this really, we felt was a very responsive bid. The diligence we did, it's a very strong company. The DNA of it goes back to Pepper, so it's a really solid group of people.
And I should also apologize, there is one correction I believe that John has suggested. So the second to last whereas clause on page 1 of this resolution, I apparently had milestone on the brain, and so I wrote milestone instead of compass, and I apologize, that should be corrected to compass. No offense to either compass or milestone, both fine contractors. I just
Ready for questions?
Yeah, so thank you for the presentations. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
I've got a question about the contract, and this could just be me missing it, but where in the contract does it outline not to exceed price?
So the reference to the scope of work, the proposal that they submitted as attachment A, the scope of work, it's within the scope of work. These are the contracts we use with our engineering department for these types of projects. So if you go to page,
Attachment A is where I want to be.
yeah, let me see. Should have been included with the. Actually, it looks like it's been omitted as a page. Thank you. That's a good catch. It should have been added as a page to the exhibit, so we will have to add that in to make sure that that's captured. It should have been part of the construction cost estimate. It looks like there is more than one page there. We just submitted the page that's has the unit cost. So that's a missing attachment. And also, I can. Typically, when I do these contracts, I like to have it also in the agreement as part of the compensation, as opposed to just have it in the bid. I mean, this is meant to be so it goes out with a bid. We don't know what the cost is going to be. That's why we usually just have it reference attachment A, so that way we can just drop the bid into the contract. But then when something like this gets missing, so the two amendments that I would propose, if you all are amenable to passing this, is I would propose then going ahead and requesting that we modify Article 3 for compensation to name the specific not to exceed price, and then also add in the necessary page work to Exhibit A. And my apologies for that oversight. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Just question in regards to if we're doing that, is that something we also need to put a timeline into January, February, or are we leaving that open-ended?
Their timeline is included as part of it. That is part of it. I think that there's some flexibility I think we would want. I mean, there's no doubt that we want to hold them to their timeline as much as possible. Typically, though, so they technically have to deliver based on the timeline that they've quoted. They would have to justify what the delays are. We like to take those as they come, depending on what they're going to be. But
from a time frame starting with the tenant, that's the time frame I'm trying to identify in regards to, carrots and sticks. Is it benefit, if they get it done earlier, do we incentivize? If they get it done later, is there a penalty? Or when is our tenant supposed to move in? Because that's the basis of getting employment in the area.
Under a lease, we have a target date of, I believe, 180 days.
Okay. From when we start. Yeah. And that's designed the whole bit.
Yeah, and if you recall, that lease is pretty detailed with lots of different steps and processes. So some of those things will be in our control. Some of them won't. They're on the tenant side in terms of their obligations to turn around feedback and sign off.
And the tenant will be working with the design in order to identify, so we move as rapidly as possible.
So
Randy, I think your question's answered on Article 2.02.
that's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
It lists mirroring the lease, it gives them 180 days from the date the design is approved, or March 1st, 2025, whichever is earlier.
Okay.
So those are the two.
That answers the
And
question.
any later completion has to be agreed to by the parties.
Okay. And then the only other question is, do we have adequate money in the 444 to do this? And we're just using the consolidated as a backup, just in case, or?
I think it's
Because-
probably the reverse. I think I think likely, I'm not going to speak for the controller, so Jessica can speak to that. We do have enough money. There is enough money in the 444 account. That has to be the case before we would approve that. But we also have that money in the consolidated TIF. There's each of them could cover this alone. So in combination, they both could certainly cover.
So you're just doing this as a belt and suspenders situation?
Yeah, to give as
Really
much
nice.
flexibility to our controller as possible.
Okay. All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the public?
Oh.
Don't see any online, nobody in here.
Larry, could you
Yeah.
summarize again the 3 amendments we needed before moving forward?
Yes, so one is the correction.
One is the whereas.
The correction to the whereas, one is the correction to Article 3, compensation to list the not to exceed price of being $770,000 total. And then the third is to make sure that that is also reflected in Exhibit A, because that was part of their bid. It just needs to be, it should have been inserted. as
Does
part
that
of-
portion of Exhibit A exist somewhere? It just didn't
It
get
does
included here?
exist. It does exist, and it just didn't get included.
Could we see that or could we project it or something? So,
You can actually see it prior to.
If you send it to me, I can print it.
I'll let Larry go ahead and project it on the screen.
Let me know if you want me to pause this on the agenda. We'll move ahead and come back to that.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
So I don't-
Okay,
shoot
so we'll
time
pause
exception.
on 24-48 pending the availability of that missing page. And we will move to resolution 24-49, excuse me. Who would like to speak to this? This is the amended project review and approval form for Hopewell.
Deb?
I think Deb is still there.
You here?
I'm here. Okay. Let me tee it up and then Larry can add in the details. So in terms of the project review form, there have been some, and you're gonna hear one of them tonight with some changes that we're dealing with in construction. Some of you who were on the RDC last year maybe remember our work session where we talked about, there are things that are gonna come up in construction. We do not carry any contingencies in our contracts. We just try to deal with the changes as they come up. And some of those of a nature that is requiring an adjustment to the project review form. So the adjustment is proposed here tonight to accommodate what you're hearing tonight. And then I think Roy is probably doing that presentation. He can also speak to something that could be coming up too on the First Street project. We'll also have a minor change related to the demolition project that we'll bring to you next time. But all of these are related to the construction that is going on.
Any further?
Help me out here.
Yeah, it's kind of
I was gonna say, that's a little, that's
Looking
a
for a
little,
little more guidance as to what this.
what this is about.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Give me just a second.
And a related question, are we taking these in the proper order then?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason why we wanted to do the amended project review approval form is one, so you see the what's gonna upcoming, including the 2 resolutions that you'll see here. Is it just one? Actually, did we get rid of the other one? So to walk through this, there are a few things that we anticipate coming. So on First Street, just to walk through some of the changes, there's some construction changes on the First Street renovation that we have anticipated. So everything in red here is things that we anticipate coming. Not all of them are necessarily here in front of you in resolutions, because that's why this is, when we do the amended project review and approval form, it's not the approval of the actual funding for these things. We're just kind of putting in the placeholders of what we think they're going to cost, and we have there's several of them upcoming. And so just to preview those for you. First of all, is construction changes number 2 for First Street reconstruction. Just some of Roy can speak to this a little bit more, but just in terms of some of the challenges and the things that have been come up during that project, we anticipate a change order of about $225,000 upcoming on that. Tonight before you, if you go down to part 7, I'm on page 44 of the packet going through the resolution here. On Hopewell East, which is what's before you tonight, change order package number 3, which encountered several of those things. You see that $158,718.89. And then if you keep scrolling down again, some changes that we anticipate are going to come to Jackson Street. So Jackson Street, if you'll remember, is the part of the project we got the ready grant for. It's Jackson Street on Hopewell West in front of the core building. Some of the changes that are coming to that are twofold. One of them is because originally what we believed is that the design could be taken to 30% and it would be sufficient. What we have since learned, or our engineering department has informed us, that those plans need to be taken up to 60%. So there's an added cost to take the design from 30% to 60% for the entire plat on Hopewell West. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is a slight adjustment to Jackson Street and some improvements on Rogers as a result as well that will be funneled into that project. So in terms of Jackson Street is my understanding will be slightly shortened to accommodate what's going to be best for the core building project and to make some room there. Again, this is not the full proposal, so just know that this is what's going to come to you. So it's not fully approving it. You're not approving these changes. I'm just giving you a preview of what's coming. Slight shortening of Jackson Street, and then to use some of that funding to do some improvements that are necessary along Rogers. So of course, in front of the core building, along the sidewalk and along Rogers Street, there needs to be some additional improvements to those to ensure proper access, proper security, proper infrastructure quality. So there's a change order in that. That change order in total is for the design portion of it, and it raises will potentially raise that contract to $794,140 total for that. Likewise, on Hopewell South, we anticipate a change order coming forward for $4,235 in the coming meetings. Deb, actually, can you speak to what we saw? I don't remember off the top of my head for Hopewell South. I apologize.
Yeah, so they did run into a little bit more asbestos that needed to be removed from the property before demolition, so that's related to that.
Yeah. So those are some of the significant things. It may not be everything, but this was me really. I wanted to make sure that you all saw these before. We've heard some of the statements from the RDC about wanting to get a heads up on these before we just drop them in your lap as change orders. And so to the extent possible that we can do that where it's not imminent and an emergency, I just wanted to make sure you see those numbers ahead of time. Again, approving of the modified project review and approval form is not approval of funding, so that does not happen until each of the resolutions come forward.
For that clarification. Any questions, comments from commissioners?
Even though it may not be approval of each resolution, is it not a situation where we've basically preliminary been identified, and then as it comes up, well, you already approved it through the overall consolidated cost?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, the question I'm asking in regards to, as we go ahead and we do the amended project review, and then it'll come back individually, we've been apprised of it, but from the total dollar amount that we're looking at here, I'm just quickly glancing at it, we're given the numbers, 400, 500, we're about 580,000 in additional. So once we approve this, then it'll come back, each one piece at a time.
That's correct.
Okay, so,
And if for whatever, just to be really clear, we don't experience this very often. If for some reason you all did not approve something for whatever reason, we would change the project review and approval form at that time also to reflect those changes as well. So
these are things that have been identified that in order to continually make the project a success long-term, they're going to come up in some fashion. It's just a matter of how much they're going to be.
And I'll also tell you, you're going to see a resolution too on modifying the READY agreement, but that has no change in cost, so it's not really reflected in the project review and approval form. It's just modifying it to reflect, if you do approve the changes that we see here in the project review and approval form, it necessitates an adjustment to an exhibit in the READY agreement. So for instance, you'll see a resolution on that. It just doesn't have a cost impact, so it doesn't come up in a form like this.
When we go to item 12 on Jackson Street in regards to 30 to 60% in regards to the design that we have to have,
Right.
is there a possibility of someone requiring us to go higher than that, which in turn will increase the cost accordingly, so we'll at least know?
Well, I think at this time, this is where we would leave it because we don't know. This is again, because we're trying to get this done for the platting purposes of Hopewell West to make sure we can record a plat so that we can have the individual parcels to complete the transaction with the core developers and also to get everything ready to potentially offer this more formally and broadly for developers to redevelop. So it's really geared towards that and trying to see, here's where the infrastructure should go. Here's going to be the general lot sizes, although not the final lot sizes, because developers can bid on entire lots or portions of lots, things like that. But this gets us to a place where we feel like we are clearly communicating what the vision of that block is, but also allows us to have a recordable plat so that we can change the property lines enough to where it's going to reflect like what that neighborhood's going to look like with the cross streets and the alleys and the greenway set in there, which is significantly different than the way it's platted currently, because the way it's platted currently is, as you know, IU Health had buildings on their own property. They had buildings on other property. The hospital extended past the property line that IU Health owned, and then they left some historical lots in place. So the big parking lot, for instance, to the northeast of the parcel, so where the IU Health employees used to park. Those are multiple different parcels that are just kind of split up the way they were historically. They don't necessarily make any sense for what the future of the development is going to be or how we would divide it up in a current offering. So,
Okay.
and I know John's also sat on some of these, so if you have any clarifications, I could be.
What's our time frame? We got to close out with Brenshaw. Do we have a definitive time on that?
You mean close with a?
Yeah, because this plat has to be recorded prior to.
We anticipate that it'll take a couple of months still to close with them, and we're talking to them and making sure that we're all coordinating when we think that's going to
There's
be.
a time frame involved with this, but again, we're throwing another 600,000 in here.
And as you may suspect, with any closing, there are multiple moving pieces. So it's not just the plat. There's always multiple moving pieces that we're trying to sort out and make sure that we're clearly communicating with them. And that's something, if that changes the strategy whatsoever, that's something we would bring back to you all as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Any ask for comments from the public? Anybody online or in the public? Okay, not seeing any, I'll entertain a motion, please, for Resolution 24-49.
Move approval of Resolution 2449.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 None opposed, motion carries unanimously. We'll go to 2451, and then if we can, we'll return to 2448. Okay, so who would like to speak to 2451 tonight?
That's the change order, correct?
Yes, please. It's the approval of change order package number 3 to project agreement with Milestone Contractors for Hopewell Phase 1 East.
Roy Aiton with City Engineering Department. A couple things before I noticed on the change order agreement form, there's a couple numbers that are different on it than what engineering numbers are. One was change order package number 2 is actually 142,981.57, not the 158,718. As Larry had mentioned earlier, some of these items are coming back in the future. Those numbers will kind of be readjusted to the actual numbers where they are. Some of them are kind of placeholders in the approval form. So we start there and we start to try to get it down as much as possible. on a lot of those things. So there are a few items. I don't know if you're interested this evening to go over these. I can elaborate on a few of them, or
We should probably stick to the resolution.
stick to the resolution. And then resolution 2451. So this is our Hopewell East project. This is a package, change order package number 3, which is 7 change orders total. The total amount for all 7 change orders is $142,981.57. Just briefly, I can go over a few of the change orders with Milestone. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Change order 15 was for undercuts in the University Street, where we found some unsuitable soil. Change order 16 was for the Centerstone entrance. There were some adjustments to the sidewalk that was going into their entrance. Change order 17 was for a culvert demolition on lot 1, the RDC's lot number 1. There was an abandoned culvert that ran through the lot. Rather than reusing it, we could abandon it. We went ahead and demoed it, so the lot should be ready for development. Change order 18 was a center point gas main that was, when excavated, we had to rebury it, $514. One item I wanted to bring to attention to, if the staff report that is included in the packet shows that to be a negative 514, that's a typo on my part. That's actually a plus 514.80. Change order 19. Change order 19 and change order 20 are very similar and related. They are for the Duke conduits to be run underground to supply power to a new transformer that's being put in, and also just to provide future power to the lots as we're out there. And then the last change order is change order number 21, which was for additional video inspection rather, for all the new storm sewer, under drains, sanitary sewer. We hire a company to come in and videotape to make sure that it's placed, not crushed during construction. So, as I said, total all 7 change orders is $142,981.57.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from commissioners?
Is your change order 21, is that just third-party verification, so we as the owners know that there's no issues in regards to it,
Yeah.
even though the contractor is responsible?
Exactly. What we did was we asked a contractor through a field order to price out the video inspection. They hired them. That's why it's a change order in the contract, but it's a third-party company that came in and videotaped it. Then they provide us the tape. And they did find a few bad spots, so, and those have been repaired. So.
And you're satisfied upon inspection that these are reasonable numbers and necessary?
They weren't reasonable in the beginning. They are, I'm satisfied now that they are very reasonable numbers, yep.
I have full faith in you.
It's been a while to get some of these to you, so.
Any other questions, comments from commissioners? Seeing none, I'll open it to the public. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, if we hear a first and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously, 2451. And we will return to 2448. Mr. Allen, have you been able to find the missing page?
So it is actually on the page. There is a reference to it on the exhibit. So page 29 of the packet, which is on part of Exhibit A of the contract. In the scope of work where it talks about their fee, design builder fee, if you go all the way over to the right, it's under comments, it's based on an estimated cost of work, a total of $770,000.
Hardly buried any smaller.
It's very small, yeah, so that's why I think it is on there, but we do need to call it out in the agreement itself. And John, I think you had found something else that
Well, I just shared with some of you via email the actual language in the RFP, which is very specific in regards to
Oh, I see.
guaranteed maximum price contract not to exceed the 770.
Is that the language that would go in the compensation section? of
That's
the
exactly
resolution?
right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be happy if you get it in the compensation section.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so we have a final of 2 amendments, is that correct? Just to kind of clarify in terms of asking for a motion. And actually, I don't know if I should reopen it now that that's been clarified in terms of comments or questions from commissioners based on what you've heard so far. And then anything from the public. Okay, seeing none. I'm just going to clarify the amendments and then ask for a motion. The 2 amendments are, one is the typo in the whereas to be the correct contractor, and then the second is to have the complete compensation clarified under Article 3 on page 18 in the packet, as opposed to just referencing the exhibit. So with those 2 amendments, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll move for approval of Resolution 24-51. Oops, 24-48.
Thank you.
Second.
I hear I have a first and a second. All approved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Approved unanimously. Okay, is there anything else for the good of the order tonight? We've covered our whole agenda.
I have one question for
Yes.
Deb. That would be, how many total units do we anticipate having in Hopewell?
Yeah, the master plan identified a max of, I think it was what, 940. We kind of rounded to 1,000, just round numbers, but I think the master plan max showed about 940. That doesn't mean that isn't the max you could have, but that's what was planned around.
Okay, it's around 940 residents with multifamily, single family, complete on the entire
With
Hopewell
all
project.
the types, yeah, with all the different types, because you may recall, there's single-family duplexes, there's townhomes, there's multifamily, sort of many different types. The intention is to attract a diverse population.
Okay.
Sorry, just clarifying, Randy, you said 940 residents, and Deb was talking about 940 units, I think.
Same thing.
Residences.
Yeah.
Oh, residences.
Residences, yeah, I apologize.
Gotcha.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Deb.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.